Episode 41 Otis Radcliffe's Wishful Planning. Otis Radcliffe's face immediately darkened. He had orchestrated this situation precisely to make Julius Reed uncomfortable. The meal at Azure Percival yesterday had led to Zaid Radcliffe berating him harshly and docking half a year's salary. How could Otis Radcliffe feel at ease with this turn of events? A cold glint flickered in Otis Radcliffe's eyes, and his voice chilled as well. Every personnel decision in the company must have my signature of approval. You say he's your secretary, but did I approve it? Otis Radcliffe pushed up his glasses on the bridge of his nose, a cold smile surfacing on his lips. Even if Quella Radcliffe became the project manager, her position was still beneath his. Zaid Radcliffe had also promised him that, once the project cooperation was complete, Quella Radcliffe's position would be immediately withdrawn. So he was not intimidated and was, in fact, quite confident. Otis, what do you mean by this? Are you deliberately trying to make things difficult for Julius and me? A chill flashed in Quella Radcliffe's eyes. From childhood, this younger brother had always been against her, especially since she had married Julius Reed. Otis Radcliffe had become even more aggressive. This isn't about making things difficult for you. Otis Radcliffe spread his hands. This is company policy. Quella, you wouldn't think that just because you've become the project manager, you can disregard company policy, do you, Otis? Don't regret this. Julius Reed shook his head. Such petty tricks were really pointless. Oh, son-in-law, are you threatening me? Otis Radcliffe scoffed at Julius Reed's words. A complete loser, thinking himself a phoenix just because he's perched on a branch. Since that's the case, I'll leave it at this. Unless you and the chairman come begging to Quella with the entire company staff, we will never step into the company again. After speaking, Julius Reed took Quella Radcliffe's hand and strode out of the Radcliffe group. Ungrateful. Just with you? Don't think just because Quella and Sky Reed slept together that you have nothing to worry about. Let me tell you, the Radcliffe group spins the same with or without anyone watching the two leave. Otis Radcliffe cursed loudly. Exactly. Thinking himself something special, isn't he just climbing the ranks through his looks, gets a little success and becomes arrogant? In this company, apart from our general manager Otis, it's all the same if anyone leaves on his first day in office. He wants to monopolize power. Who knows what inappropriate things he'll do in the future. Good riddance. He's the scum of the group. A bunch of Otis Radcliffe's lackeys loudly discussed this, as if worried that Julius Reed and Quella Radcliffe wouldn't hear them. Suddenly, the noisy crowd fell silent. Julius Reed suddenly turned around and came back. What's wrong? Regret it? Kneel down and apologize to me, and perhaps I'll let it slide. Otis Radcliffe folded his arms, a look of pride on his face. Smack. Julius Reed suddenly lifted his right hand and slapped without warning. Because of the force, Otis Radcliffe was knocked to the ground. Watch your mouth. If it wasn't for your sister's face, you wouldn't be living till today. After speaking, Julius Reed walked away under the dumbstruck gaze of the employees. You just wait. Otis Radcliffe gritted his teeth and shouted. Being slapped in front of dozens of employees was a tremendous humiliation. If he didn't retaliate for this, Otis Radcliffe, swore he would not be a man. Are you really okay in the Rolls Royce? Quella Radcliffe was somewhat worried. Don't worry, Sky Reed is my relative. A small matter like this is no problem. Julius Reed didn't want to do this, but some people at the Radcliffe group were too much. Without a lesson, Quella Radcliffe's days within the group would probably become even tougher. But Otis's words, could they implicate Sky, having mixed in the business world for years? Quella naturally understood the reasoning behind this. There were undoubtedly people within Titan Group who didn't submit to Sky, and if this matter were to be exposed, Sky might get implicated. But what she didn't know was that the entire Titan Group was owned by Julius Reed, and she was the wife of the owner of Titan Group. Just wait. By this afternoon at the latest, Grandpa will bring the company people to our house to apologize to you. Julius Reed gave a faint smile and drove out of the Radcliffe Group headquarters. Go watch a movie, sure. Sure. Quella Radcliffe's cheeks reddened as if she had done something disgraceful. Grandpa, look at this. Look at this. Inside the chairman's office of the Radcliffe Group, Otis Radcliffe pointed at his bloodied face, furiously pounding on the desk. Who has ever hit me like this from childhood? Even you, Grandpa, have never hit me like this. Although Quella was favored in her childhood, Otis was the most popular person in the Radcliffe family. In the end, A woman is to be married off. The one to inherit the family business could only be him. There had been rumors inside the group about Quella taking the position of general manager, but everything changed after she married Julius Reed. Absurd. Zaid Radcliffe touched Otis's face, full of fury. Julius Reed, you've gone too far. Although he had criticized his grandson just yesterday, seeing Otis's swollen face today filled him with nothing but anger. Grandpa, Julius Reed dared to do this entirely because of Quella. Now this wretched woman has hooked up with Sky and they bully us because they think we dare not touch her, complained Otis. Humph. I thought if she behaved and worked quietly, I would not trouble her. But since she dares to be so arrogant, cannot blame us for being unkind. Sky, is it? I want to see if he can protect Quella. Saying this, Zaid Radcliffe pulled out his phone and made a call. Brother Leopold, how have you been doing at Titan Group lately? The person on the other end, Leonardo Leopold, was a high-level executive at Titan Group, with an annual salary of over $5 million and considerable power. The most important point was that he was a sworn enemy of Sky and had many connections with Zaid Radcliffe. Zaid Radcliffe hadn't wanted to offend Sky, but now he had no choice but to act. Heaven knows if he left Quella unchecked, she might turn the group upside down. Old Mr. Radcliffe, what brings you to call me today? A middle-aged man's voice came from the other end of the phone. Here's the thing. Your group Sky has recently been negotiating a partnership with our company, but taking advantage of his great power, he insists on promoting a regular female employee, with whom he's had relations, to project manager. As soon as we oppose, he threatens to terminate the partnership. For the sake of Otis, Zaid Radcliffe did not hesitate to slander his own granddaughter. Such a thing? I was supposed to be your negotiation representative at first, but who knew this bastard Sky would snatch it away? Just wait, I'm going to see the chairman right now. If this is true, Titan Group will never tolerate such a disgrace. Staying in the company. Excited, Leonardo Leopold's voice came through from the phone. He had long disliked Sky but never had the chance to act on it. If all goes well, you'll be the new project manager. Remember to do well. After hanging up the phone, Zaid Radcliffe looked at his grandson contentedly. Please rest assured, Grandpa. Otis felt a rush of secret satisfaction inside, and a trace of cold light flashed in his eyes. Once he secured the project manager position, he would make sure Quella was expelled from the Radcliffe family. No, not just expelled from the Radcliffe family. He would see to it that Quella and Julius Reed would neither live nor die as they wished. Episode 42. Stretching the muscles and bones. Gonzales City, Ocean Amusement Park. This is a comprehensive entertainment facility, and since Gonzales is a coastal city, it attracts a great number of visitors. Located beside the shores of Gonzales, the Ocean Amusement Park is not only a large playground but also a comprehensive shopping mall. After having fun at the beach, visitors can go indoors to watch a movie or enjoy a delicious meal and perhaps do some shopping for clothes. After leaving the Radcliffe group, Julius Reed took Quella Radcliffe here, planning to catch a movie. The two had been married for 3 years but had never been to such a place together. Julius, can you tell me why you seem like a completely different person lately, walking in the amusement park and watching the young couples holding hands and hugging? Quella Radcliffe asked with her head lowered. This was a question weighing on her heart, and if it wasn't addressed, it would continue to consume her thoughts, leading to wild speculations. Her husband had changed so much she could barely recognize him, but one thing that hadn't changed was that he had always been kind to her. From the 3 years he entered their family to now, he had never changed. Actually, I lost my memory 3 years ago. Julius Reed stopped walking, his hands in his pockets as he looked up at the sky. His eyes gazed at the white clouds above, his look as profound as the stars. But, by a chance occurrence, I regained some memories and remembered some friends from before. As he said this, he withdrew his gaze and looked at Quella Radcliffe with affection. Thinking of Sky Reed, a relative of mine. I asked him to come and give us a hand. You've struck gold. Turns out I'm a rich second generation. You? Ha ha. Quella Radcliffe was amused all of a sudden. Then you must be the most aggrieved rich second generation in history. With that, she added with a hint of bitterness, I'm sorry for these past years. Julius Reed had an incredibly miserable 3 years. Not only cooking and cleaning but also enduring scolding and beating. It's all in the past. I'm sorry. I won't treat you like that anymore. Quella Radcliffe looked at him with hopeful eyes. Come on. Let's go watch the movie. Julius Reed patted her head, his eyes full of affection. Even with nearly a century's worth of memories restored, the one he cared about the most was the woman before him. During the 3 years he had lost his memory, Quella Radcliffe was his one and only. She was the sole color in his black and white world. What a coincidence. Brother Reed. As the two were about to step into the cinema, an extremely discordant voice came from behind. Radley Ridge, how come you're here? Upon seeing the speaker, Quella Radcliffe's brow furrowed as if tied in knots. Indeed, it wasn't a coincidence. They had run into each other at the Ocean Amusement Park. Accompanying Radley Ridge was a young gentleman who seemed to be from a good family. Young Master Potter, this is Quella Radcliffe whom I mentioned to you. Seeing Julius Reed and Quella Radcliffe, Radley Ridge didn't rush to seek revenge but started chatting with the young master beside him. Brother Ridge, you have good taste. Your sister-in-law is indeed breathtakingly beautiful. The one called young Master Potter nodded his head, clearly impressed with Quella Radcliffe. Despite having seen many beauties, he couldn't help looking at her a few more times. It's a pity that she's already married. This is her husband, Julius Reed, whom I've told you about. Radley Ridge didn't get upset over young Master Potter's remarks. Instead, he shook his head and sighed. What a shame, a fresh flower stuck in cow dung. How could such trash be worthy of Miss Radcliffe? Quamain Potter snorted disdainfully, his face showing contempt. If you know what's good for you, get lost. Make way for Brother Ridge here. Otherwise, don't blame us for being unkind. As his words fell, several burly men stepped in front of Julius Reed, their eyes menacing. Quamain Potter was the only son of the Potter family in Five River Province, one of the 4 young masters of the provincial city. He was known for living a life of debauchery and seeking trouble everywhere, relying on his family's power, an absolute wastrel. He was also the only unemployed idler among the 4 young elites of the provincial capital. Stanislaus Potter had only this one son, so he was especially doted on. He usually indulged him to a great extent, cleaning up whatever messes the son got in. In Five River Province, Quamain Potter was known as a complete devil incarnate. I would feel bad troubling young Master Potter with my own matters. Radley Ridge feigned difficulty, knowing today was an opportunity to take revenge on Julius Reed through Quamain Potter's hands. As expected, upon hearing his words, Quamain Potter said with some displeasure, young Master Potter, always put righteousness first and would go through fire and water for my friends. I'll take care of today's matter. This Brother Reed seems to have some connections with the local thug Flower Snake. I got beaten up last time because of him. Radley Ridge pretended to kindly remind him, with an expression of sorrow flashing across his face. All of this was observed by Quamain Potter, who snorted coldly. You dare to mess with my friend? Kid, ask around in Five River Province. See who dares to oppose me. Young Master Potter accustomed to arrogance. How could Quamain Potter take Julius Reed seriously? Then I'll have to trouble young Master Potter. After hearing this sentence, Radley Ridge's mouth curled into a cold smile. He had made acquaintance with young Master Potter through an international schoolmate and had even invited him to come play in Gonzales City. Little did he know, it was a small world, and they actually ran into Julius Reed. Just my bad luck. Radley Ridge secretly rejoiced in his heart. Kneel down and apologize to my brother, and I might consider going easy on you. Quamain Potter stood with his hands behind his back, giving an order in an unequivocal tone. Today I'm in a good mood and don't want to bother with you guys. Looking at the few people in front of him, Julius Reed shook his head and took Quella Radcliffe's hand, ready to leave. If his wife were not here, he would definitely give these rascals a severe thrashing. But today, he just wanted to have a good day with Quella Radcliffe. Leave him behind for me. Seeing that the other party had ignored him and was even planning to leave, Quamain Potter's anger flared up. In Five River Province, there were few who dared to disrespect him, young Master Potter, but this young man in front of him was clearly not one of them. Stop! At Quamain Potter's signal, a bodyguard stepped forward, his left hand reaching out to grab Julius Reed's shoulder. Get lost! Julius Reed sidestepped slightly, his left hand gripping the burly man's wrist and then pressing down forcefully, accompanied by a scream like that of a slaughtered pig. The wrist of the aggressor was crushed, and he squatted on the ground trembling. Damn. He's a practitioner. Quamain Potter raised an eyebrow, a smile playing on his lips. Interesting. The rest of you attack together when bullying others. those being bullied would kneel and beg for mercy, and none had dared to retaliate. After all, the name of the person, the shadow of the tree. Nobody dared to disregard the identity of young Master Potter. So seeing that Julius Reed dared to injure his bodyguard, Kwame Potter was somewhat excited. Don't kill him. I still want to have a good time with him. The remaining 4 bodyguards stepped forward, each with an air of caution. Their companion's injury had made them wary of taking anything for granted. Husband, what should we do? Quella Radcliffe gripped Julius Reed's hand tightly, her eyes filled with concern. She had naturally heard of Kwame Potter's notorious reputation as a notorious devil incarnate, and with the Potter family's enormous influence in Five River Province, baiting such a behemoth could have unimaginable consequences. Move back a bit. I need to stretch my muscles. Julius Reed placed Quella Radcliffe behind him and his mouth curved into a smile. Episode 43 Two Dogs. Julius Reed was in particularly high spirits today because this was his first time going to see a movie with Quella Radcliffe. But that was 5 minutes ago, and now his mood was completely ruined. Some people were just asking for a beating. Without one, their bodies would feel uncomfortable. Attack! The bodyguards exchanged glances and surged forward together. They were clearly specially trained, with no dead angles in their attack. No matter how Julius tried to dodge, he would be within their striking range. However, Julius had no intention of dodging. At the moment the first bodyguard closed in on him, Julius flashed back, his left foot landing squarely on the bodyguard's chin. With a muffled thud, the bodyguard fell to the ground in agony, blood pouring from his mouth. Julius's kick was so powerful that the other's teeth were probably all shattered, but by then, the remaining men had already circled around him. Their comrade's injury didn't make them hesitate but instead fueled the fighting spirit within them. You're not my match, Julius said with his hands behind his back, shaking his head. I don't even need to lift a finger. Arrogant. The bodyguards had once been dominant figures in their own right. Otherwise, how could they have become the personal bodyguards of the Potter family's young master? After hearing Julius's words, each of their faces turned extremely ugly. Teach him a lesson, one of the bodyguards nodded, then suddenly lunged forward. In the moment he made his move, another bodyguard sprinted out, using the first one's back as a springboard to leap into the air, and the third person fiercely struck with his hand like a knife. A cold smile appeared on the corner of the bodyguard's lips, thinking he's arrogant. Soon they'll make him kneel on the ground and beg for mercy. But the next moment, the smiles on their faces gradually stiffened. Faced with the fierce hand knife, Julius remained calm. He leaned in, his face brushing past the bodyguard's hand knife. Bang! Simultaneously, he dropped his shoulder into a strike, directly breaking several of the bodyguard's ribs. The sound of the bones breaking shocked the other two, causing a moment of hesitation in their actions. But in that brief moment of hesitation, Julius had already reached them. Bang! Bang! With two loud sounds, his shoulders slammed into the backs and chests of the others, sending the last two flying. Kwame Potter's eyes widened in shock. He was all too aware of the skills these bodyguards possessed. Each one was an elite chosen with care. Yet in front of Julius, they had been beaten without a chance to fight back. And Julius hadn't even used his hands. Not even his feet. Simply using his shoulders, he had knocked these men to the ground. Now, it's time for us to settle the score. Julius walked over with his hands behind his back and a smile on his face. Don't mess around. I am the Potter family young master. If you dare harm a single hair on me, you won't be able to take half a step out of Gonzales City. Although the other was all smiles, Kwame felt the smile was terrifying, sending shivers down his spine. But he soon regained his composure. Who was he? One of the 4 young masters of Five River Province. His father a prominent entrepreneur. His mother from a powerful family in the capital. With such status, who would dare to touch him? Unless they were tired of living. The Potter family young master. Interesting. Julius chuckled and suddenly slapped out with his hand. Slap. Following the sound, a clear handprint appeared on Kwame's face. You dare to slap me? Soon after, the young Master Potter glared in disbelief at Julius. Quella Radcliffe also covered her mouth with her hand in shock. This was one of the 4 young masters, his background enormously powerful. Yet Julius had dared to slap him. Although Jackson Brandon was powerful in Gonzales City, compared with Kwame, He was still far inferior. The only son of the Potter family. She could even imagine how angry Stanislaus Potter would be. Yeah. So what if I hit you? Julius Reed looked at him with a beaming smile, asking, "Does it feel good?" Just then, Radley Ridge, who was standing aside, noticed something was amiss and started to bolt. If Kwame Potter was getting beaten up, what chance did he have of a good outcome? Unfortunately for him, he miscalculated his fortune. Julius Reed's hand, unbeknownst to anyone, had produced a small steel ball, which he flicked lightly with his middle finger, hitting Radley Ridge directly in the leg. Seeing this, Kwame Potter shuddered inwardly. What kind of monster had he provoked? Yet he still didn't believe the other party dared to do anything to him. After all, the status of being one of the 4 young masters was imposing enough to inspire fear. I came out to watch a movie with my wife today, and you lot have really been a buzzkill. Julius Reed shook his head, saying helplessly, "How about this? Crawl on the ground and bark like a dog for me. Once I'm satisfied, I'll let you go." "You wouldn't dare!" one of the bodyguards on the ground howled in pain. "Our young Master Potter is the Potter family's son. Aren't you afraid of death making the Potter family's son bark like a dog?" This guy was truly one of a kind. The bodyguard might not know much, but he was sure this kid was going to die a terrible death. "You can't even save your own life, and you're worried about others." Julius Reed turned around and pretended to step carelessly on the bodyguard's thigh. Crack. What appeared to be a casual step was delivered with immense force. It crushed the bodyguard's leg bones to smithereens. The intense pain caused the bodyguard to pass out immediately. Young Master Potter, start after doing all this. Julius Reed walked back, hands clasped behind him, in front of Kwame Potter. "I don't believe you dare touch me." Confidence overflowed in Kwame Potter's face. He didn't believe anyone in this world was fearless. Smack. Julius Reed backhanded him with a slap, knocking him to the ground. "I'm giving you one last chance. You can bet I wouldn't dare step down." While speaking, Julius Reed slowly lifted his right foot, placing it above Kwame Potter's legs. "Once I step down, no one will be able to heal it." The people there inhaled sharply. Who was this ruthless person who even threatened young Master Potter? As Julius Reed's right foot continued to descend, Kwame Potter struggled internally. Woof! Finally, he lay on the ground, sticking out his tongue and barking like a dog. A great man can bend and stretch. What use would killing this man be if he lost his legs? His future held infinite promise. It wasn't worth the gamble. Hearing his bark, Quella Radcliffe, though she tried to hold it in, ultimately couldn't suppress her laughter. Master Potter truly is talented. Even better than a real dog. Julius Reed pulled out his phone and recorded the whole scene. "Get lost. If I see you again, you won't be so lucky." Quella Radcliffe by his side made Julius Reed hold back a lot. "Did I say you could leave?" As Kwame Potter was leaving, Radley Ridge also tried to take the chance to escape. "Please, I beg you, let me go." Faced with the icy Julius Reed, Radley Ridge's heart instantly shattered. "Crawl around the square and bark like a dog convincingly, and I might let you off. Otherwise, feel free to try and leave." By deciding not to kill him for coveting his wife, Julius Reed was already being merciful. Yes, without the slightest hesitation, Radley Ridge began to crawl on the ground, dragging his lame leg behind him. If Kwame Potter had fallen, what was he? From a distance, a man watching the scene cracked a smile. "Post this video online. I'd like to see what the Potter family will do about it." He handed his phone to an elderly man beside him, then disappeared into the crowd. Episode 44. One resigned. Kwame Potter's interference had completely killed their mood. What was supposed to be a nice date ended up like this. Julius Reed simply drove Quella Radcliffe back home, waiting for Zaid Radcliffe and the others to come and apologize. At Titan Group, he had already instructed a video cook to put immense pressure on the Radcliffe group, or else the Radcliffe family would certainly not compromise easily. Since these people were intent on causing discomfort, he would take this opportunity to establish Quella's authority, to ensure no one would cross her in the future. Soon the car arrived downstairs, and after parking the Rolls-Royce, they walked upstairs shoulder to shoulder. Even though they hadn't watched the movie today, they both felt that they had grown closer to each other. After entering the apartment, surprisingly, Bell Radcliffe and his wife hadn't gone to work and were sitting on the sofa with worried expressions, which startled Julius Reed and Quella Radcliffe. Knox Ridge and Belle Radcliffe, despite their not-so-high positions, were quite punctual with their work hours, both staying at home like this was a first. Mom, are you sick seeing the unusually poor complexion on Knox Ridge? Quella instinctively thought she was ill, and that was why the old couple hadn't gone to work, immediately growing anxious. But Knox Ridge still sat on the sofa with a troubled look, not saying a word. Dad, what's wrong with Mom seeing her own mother not speaking? Quella became even more worried and leaned in close to Belle Radcliffe, urgently asking, "Speak up yet," as if the old couple had agreed beforehand. They kept a mutually understood silence. "What's wrong with you two? Don't scare me," Quella immediately panicked, clueless about what could have happened at home. After a moment of silence, it was Belle Radcliffe who finally spoke. He let out a long sigh and with a lowered head said, "MV daughter, this morning your mom and I accidentally lost your necklace while we were at work." What? Quella Radcliffe shouted in disbelief, and then anger quickly took over. That was the unique gift Julius Reed had given her. It had stirred up Gonzales City, a treasure countless girls dreamed of but couldn't obtain. The light of dawn. Previously, Knox Ridge had made a fuss to borrow it for a couple of days, and despite Quella's reluctance, she had agreed only to lend it for 2 days. But now, Knox Ridge had actually lost the necklace. "Do you realize that was a gift Julius Reed gave me? How could you be so careless?" Quella Radcliffe yelled out loud, a rush of aggrieved emotions flooding her. The light of dawn might be costly, but the necklace held a unique meaning to her. It was the first gift from Julius Reed, and it marked a change in her husband since she received that necklace. "What are you yelling for?" Seeing Quella's intense agitation, Knox Ridge muttered, "It's only a damn necklace, and who knows, maybe it's just forgotten at home." Even when at fault, she was never accustomed to admitting it. "Then go look for it," Quella Radcliffe shouted. "Go and find it for me. I am your birth mother." "Quella, how can you talk to me like that?" Knox Ridge had already searched. After discovering the necklace missing, she and Belle Radcliffe had rushed back home. But no matter how much they searched, it was as if the necklace had evaporated from the mortal world. Completely untraceable. Could Julius Reed have stolen it? "I heard that necklace was quite valuable. Maybe he stole it and snuck it back out when I wasn't paying attention. Think about it. He's penniless. Where would he get the money to buy you such an expensive gift?" Knox Ridge habitually shifted the blame onto Julius Reed's head since in this family, whenever something went wrong, it was always this son-in-law who got the blame. "Right. It must be him. He definitely stole the necklace when we weren't looking," Belle Radcliffe chimed in from the side. The necklace was still there when the couple left in the morning, and by that time, Julius Reed had already headed to the company with Quella Radcliffe. But to cover for his wife, he also turned a blind eye to the truth. Quella Radcliffe's breath became rapid with rage, and anger surged through her entire body. Although she didn't know where Julius Reed had gotten the money, she was certain her husband was not a thief or a petty criminal. Knox Ridge and Belle Radcliffe were both blatantly lying through their teeth, outright slandering. "No matter. If my in-laws suspect me, then go ahead and call the police." Julius Reed leaned against the door, smiling as if he were not smiling, and said, "These two unrespectable elders, if not for the sake of his wife, would have been dead cold by now. Nobody who dared talk to the young master of the 10,000 Mountain Alliance like that had ever left alive." "Oh, Julius Reed, you think I wouldn't dare?" "Just wait." Convinced that Julius Reed was the thief, Knox Ridge took out her phone and was about to call the police. Perfect opportunity for her to deal with this son-in-law who was an eyesore no matter how she looked at him. "Call the police." Julius Reed was completely unconcerned, as though watching a clown, and took out a receipt from his pocket. "This is the receipt from the Dawn's Light. I happen to want the police to trace its whereabouts. After all, losing someone else's item worth tens of millions requires compensation. If you can't pay up, you might as well sit through a prison term." "Let me see." Knox Ridge's face changed drastically. She stood up, snatched the receipt, and her face suddenly changed color. It clearly stated Julius Reed's name and his mobile number. As for the amount, Knox Ridge felt dizzy, nearly collapsing to the ground. 13,314,000. If the police pursued the matter, the two of them would definitely end up sitting through a prison term. "Kid, where's the evidence then?" In front of everyone, Knox Ridge tore the receipt to shreds, then followed by swallowing the pieces. "Mom, how could you do this?" Quella Radcliffe's face turned red, trembling with rage. How could her own mother be so shamelessly impudent? Julius Reed. Go on and call the police then after doing all this. Knoxbridge looked triumphantly at Julius Reed, her eyes filled with defiance. I just lost the necklace. What can you do to me really? This one is made of iron. You better think carefully before swallowing. In the face of his mother-in-law's absurd actions, Julius Reed took out an iron card from his pocket and casually tossed it in front of them. This is the Love Island membership card, which can track my purchase history in any city's store. Eat slowly, don't hurt yourself. The threshold for a Love Island membership card is high, but Julius Reed's single purchase of over 13 million instantly granted him membership status. Even without that receipt, his ownership of the Dawn's Light could still be proven. Knoxbridge's face turned pale, feeling played for a fool by Julius Reed. Thinking of the receipt in her stomach made her feel nauseous. Enough bickering. You have 3 days to find the necklace and return it to me. Witnessing her mother's shrew-like behavior, Quella Radcliffe felt extremely unpleasant. Right. Why are you home from work so early today? Bell Radcliffe glanced at his watch. It wasn't even 3 in the afternoon yet. The Radcliffe Group had working hours from 9 to 5. And this was Quella Radcliffe's first day at the job as a project manager. Yet she came home early. I resigned. Facing the questioning of her father, Quella Radcliffe answered helplessly. Episode 45. No room for this great Buddha. What? Are you out of your mind? Upon hearing the news, Knoxbridge stood up from the sofa abruptly. From a junior executive to a project leader, and you just quit like that? She had been counting on Quella Radcliffe to use her position to make some money and buy them a new car. After all, the model of Bell Radcliffe's Passat was quite old, and it was often laughed at when driven. Such a lucrative position as project leader could easily rake in millions. So one could imagine how the old couple felt now that Quella Radcliffe had resigned. It was like falling from heaven to hell. I told her to resign, and unless grandfather personally asks her to return, Quella Radcliffe won't go back to the Radcliffe Group. Julius Reed leaned against the door, slowly speaking up. Julius Reed, have you lost your mind? I see it now. You're intentionally taking revenge on our family. Knoxbridge gritted her teeth and said, are you happy to see us live miserably for years? Quella Radcliffe had been suppressed within the Radcliffe Group, and now that she finally had a chance to soar, she resigned. One could imagine how angry Knoxbridge was. I'm not as petty as you, and there's a reason for everything I do. Julius Reed did not argue with his mother-in-law. After all, she was Quella Radcliffe's mother. If I didn't do this, there would be a lot of people in the group who wouldn't accept Quella, and her work would be fraught with difficulties with Titan Group applying pressure. He didn't believe the Radcliffe clan would dare to seek their own destruction. Facing the colossal entity controlled by a video cook, the Radcliffe family was extremely wary. Who do you think you are? You own Titan Group? Is a video cook working under you? Knoxbridge scoffed. You're nothing but trash. A completely useless piece of trash. My daughter's really hit rock bottom marrying you. You'd better watch your words. The sudden chill on Julius Reed's face made Knoxbridge shiver with fear. In fact, she was right. A video cook did work for Julius Reed, and Titan Group was indeed owned by him. But very few people knew this. Mom. Respect Julius. I have never regretted marrying him. With her lips tightly pressed together, Quella Radcliffe's expression was complex as she faced her domineering mother. Julius Reed, however, smiled slowly upon hearing that she had never regretted it. Shut your mouth. An incompetent fool tells you to resign. And you do? What's in your head? Knoxbridge grew angrier the more she looked at her daughter, unable to understand what kind of spell Julius Reed had cast in these last 2 days, making Quella Radcliffe start to protect him. I've said it before, unless grandfather comes with all the staff to ask her back, Quella Radcliffe is not returning. Julius Reed said coldly. Julius Reed, get out. You even dare to ask the chairman to come personally to our house. You've ruined us. After hearing what her son-in-law had said, Knoxbridge was so furious she felt like her lungs were going to explode. Because Quella Radcliffe married Julius Reed, Zaid Radcliffe had never looked favorably upon Bell Radcliffe's family, even though he was the one who had decided on the marriage in the beginning. Whether he was accused of being ungrateful or of kicking away the ladder after he climbed up. As soon as he realized Julius Reed was of no useful value, Zaid Radcliffe couldn't wait to kick him out of the Radcliffe family. But, due to the talk of the townspeople of Gonzales City, he had to hold back. And like a thorn in his side, Zaid Radcliffe would inevitably feel uncomfortable whenever he saw Julius Reed. That was also why Belle Radcliffe's family earned the least and held the lowest positions within the Radcliffe group. Now, Julius Reed even dared to declare that Zaid Radcliffe would bring the entire Radcliffe group to ask Quella Radcliffe back. One could imagine the fury in Knox Ridge's heart. It was as if they were being pushed into a pit of fire. No, I have to call Dad and explain things so we don't ruin the great future ahead for our Quella. Knox Ridge picked up her phone and viciously told Julius Reed, "I won't let you off." Her daughter was clearly a smart person. How could she listen to Julius Reed and resign? There had to be a catch. Calling now will only bring you a torrent of scoffing and ridicule. Julius Reed leaned against the door, saying so casually, with today's drama well known to all. Both the Radcliffe clan and the employees of the group were waiting to see Quella Radcliffe made a laughingstock. At such a time, wouldn't calling just be asking for humiliation? Knox Ridge took a deep breath, realizing that Julius Reed made a lot of sense. If Quella Radcliffe can't go back, I want you out of here immediately. She clenched her teeth, hating this son-in-law to the bone. She seemed to have forgotten that she had just lost a necklace worth tens of millions to him. Meanwhile, at Titan Group, the daughter chairman of Video Cook's office was knocked open. Leonardo Leopold, with the materials prepared, entered as he pushed the door. But unexpectedly, Sky Reed was also there. Manager Leonardo, what brings you here? A Video Cook sat in his chair, asking with seeming nonchalance. He had just received a notice from Julius Reed that morning and was discussing with Sky Reed how to put pressure on Radcliffe Group. Manager Reed, could you step out for a moment? Leonardo Leopold asked softly. In his hands, he held materials for the impeachment of Sky Reed for using public resources for private gain. With the man himself present, Leonardo felt somewhat restrained. Although the two had their struggles behind the scenes, they still maintained face in public. It's fine. We're all brothers who work together. Speak freely. A Video Cook tapped the desk, gesturing for him to sit down. Chairman, I have some materials for you to see. Leonardo Leopold sat across from a Video Cook and, mustering his courage, passed the materials over. After receiving the call from Zaid Radcliffe, he immediately began investigating the matter. What he didn't expect was to uncover something that excited him greatly. The company's Rolls-Royce had been lent to a female employee of Radcliffe Group under Sky Reed's personal name. Moreover, at Radcliffe Group's board meeting, he strongly pushed for this female employee to be appointed as project manager. Such a big project could easily yield profits of tens of millions once someone became the project manager. Now, Leonardo Leopold was confident he could topple Sky Reed and take his place. As a Video Cook read the materials, his expression grew grimmer by the second. By the time he reached the last page, his face was ashen. Leonardo watched all this, barely concealing his glee. Take a look. A Video Cook tossed the materials in front of Sky Reed, his tone cold. You're investigating me? After flipping through a few pages, Sky Reed looked up at Leonardo. The details written up were meticulous, including even the exact words he had said. Manager Reed taking advantage of his position for personal gain, harming the group's interests. I will never overlook that. Leonardo showed no fear, looking righteously at Sky Reed. Chairman, such a person cannot remain in the company. You're fired, declared a Video Cook in a stern voice. The chairman is wise. Someone like Sky Reed is absolutely a scourge. Leonardo Leopold was overjoyed, having thought that Sky Reed would just be punished, but instead he was outright fired. I'm talking about you. Leonardo Leopold, before he could finish feeling pleased, a Video Cook slammed the desk, stood up, and shouted, thinking about how to sabotage colleagues all day instead of focusing on expanding the business. My Titan Group's temple is too small for a big Buddha like you. And across the entire Gonzales City, no company will want you.